This is going to be the first video of a few. On this initial one, we're discussing my initial thoughts on solomusicgear.com do-it-yourself kit. We went with a Thunderbird, and we're going to talk about my initial thoughts on it. You can see I've assembled it unfinished, so kind of have some very basic ideas about it, and then we're going to talk planning, what we're going to do with it from here on out. So to start off with, it comes completely unassembled. All the electronics are in pieces. All the hardware is in little baggies, and you get the neck and the body separately, kind of like stacked on top of each other with some light packing materials. There was no damage to anything when I opened the package, but what initially struck me was just how lightweight it was. I was already very worried when I felt the package. I was this is not good wood, kind of. That's already what I'm thinking. So going to the website, I found a product, and it was like TBB something or other. I'll try to find it real quick here for you. Yeah, TBBK-1 DIY electric bass guitar kit. It tells you some of the items that are coming in it. In the description, it describes it as unfinished mahogany with a poly sealant. Then the neck is unfinished mahogany as well, with rosewood fingerboard. When you pick up that instrument and you feel it, whatever it is, it's not, what we all know as mahogany. That's not true. Sadly, that was kind of the main reason why I purchased the kit, because I couldn't even believe that they would sell a kit, in the $200 range that, was mahogany. And probably one of those lessons where too good to be true. I was a little suspicious, but when I was researching for Gibson Thunderbirds, Thunderbirds from like Thomann in Germany, things like that, I wasn't really finding anything in the price range I was looking for with the ability with the colors basically that I wanted. So this idea came up, so I decided that even if it was kind of a scam, I'd give it a shot and just see. So here we are now. Like, definitely do not expect mahogany. If I were to describe it, it feels a lot to me like alder. It's an extremely lightweight wood, very easy to eat your way through it when you're sanding it. That's another indication that it's definitely not mahogany, because mahogany is a very hard wood. So then, yeah, after I kind of decided, okay, definitely kind of a scammy type thing that I got here, I thought about it a little more, because before you touch it, there is like a return ability to return it. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to mess with it a little bit and just give this thing a shot. And kind of the thoughts behind that were, when I talked to the guy on the phone, because I called the company, he sounded like he was like totally swamped. So starting a return ticket, I knew it was going to take forever. And I didn't really want to slog through waiting 2 months or more, for that. And then to top it off, like, probably his profit margin has to be kind of small, because he's selling the stuff for pretty cheap, and he's got all the hardware and electronics in there, and cheap things of wood. If you think about it, there's not a ton of overhead, so doing a return, it's probably a fight, and I didn't want to fight. Plus, like I said before, looking around, I couldn't find any color schemes that I wanted for Thunderbird in the price range I was looking for and all that stuff. So here we are, we're pushing forward. So let's talk about what I've already done with it and kind of take a look at what's going on, and then after that, then we'll talk about plans moving forward. So what I've already done with it. Let's start there. Okay, so I sanded the neck a little bit. You can see it lightened up a lot. Another indication that it's not mahogany, because it's a lot lighter than their little poly coat that they put on it. I put the tuning machines on the headstock. Thing to note with that is it is impossible to route your strings in a way that they're actually perfectly straight, because the tuning machine holes are too central to the nut slot, so they either need to be further this way or further that way to enable a straight line. And so the biggest offender that's pretty obvious to see is the G. I saw pictures of other people putting it together and they wound it the other direction, but in my opinion that was even worse, where every single string was obviously slanted. And in this case, the only one who's like really egregious is the G string. If all four of them are slanted pulling on this little nut, this nut is going to fail. So that's why I decided to route it this way. And then because of that, it's a little bit awkward, and you actually turn the tuning machines the opposite direction of what you would expect in order to make the strings tighter. So not great, but I can live with that. I installed the neck onto the body after doing a little sanding, and then for the body I was having trouble kind of getting a really nice tight neck fit on it. And so what I did was I actually took the body and I just barely drilled the holes a teensy bit wider, and so that allows the screw to slide through the body and then grip the neck and actually pull the neck fully into the slot. Because what was happening was the threads in the body side, I couldn't tighten it anymore, and so the neck was wherever the screw became fully tight inside the body, if that makes any sense, right? So the screw's tight here, but it's not tight inside the neck, and you can push as hard as you want, but you're probably still going to have a minute gap. So by drilling that hole just a little bit, you allow the screw to slide through the body and not the neck, and then when you tighten, now you're actually going to fully pull the neck into the slot. I also just put on the little cover just to see how it fit. It was a bit tight, so there might need to be a little bit of sanding to make that just a little bit nicer of a fit. The route job looks nice. You can see it's not a veneer due to the route job, so it's hard with the lighting, but that is the same wood in the hole as above here. So they didn't put a thin veneer on the top of this to make it look like it was something it wasn't, which I appreciate, because let's say you're sanding or you want to add a contour, you can't do that if it's a veneer, because now you're gonna totally sever your grains, for if you're trying to do a clear finish. Now you're stuck. If you want a contour or something, now you're stuck with a solid color finish. You cannot do like a wood grain or a transparent red, which is what I'm going for. Put on the bridge, put on the strings, and intonated it and kind of checked it out. The one thing I noticed is the neck wood must be really, really soft, because normally when I'm tightening a truss rod, you can feel like a decent amount of resistance. There is no resistance to the tightening and loosening the truss rod. Or maybe that's just because the truss rod's better lubricated, I guess. But for me, it's concerning to see that. because I've never tightened a truss rod like that where I'm trying to get it to re-straighten the neck, because as the strings pull, the neck starts bowing. So you just want to get the neck to be close to straight. And as I'm tightening the truss rod, it's like super loose. Then because of that, you get weird kind of warp patterns, which is one of the signs of a very cheap instrument, which I've seen before in other instruments. But what usually happens is you're trying to make this part of the neck a little bit more straight, right? So from like your 5th fret to your 12th fret, you're like, yeah, that's still bowing towards the strings a little bit. I want to straighten that. So you tighten the truss rod. But all that happens is these last 3 dive back. So you start making your neck into a shape of an S, and that is awful, awful, awful. So what does that mean for this bass? It means that I can only get it so straight, and I'm limited to this gauge string. If I go to a thicker string with a higher tension, it's going to exacerbate that problem and make the bow worse. But the tighter I make the truss rod, I'm only going to be S-ing these top couple of frets. So this guy's stuck with lightweight strings, which I'm pretty sure is what came on this. Maybe like 95s for the big string, because it's definitely smaller. Yeah, it's definitely smaller than my 100. Let's see. They do not say what size strings can't come on the kit. Looking through the website, it doesn't say. But yeah, so I'm going to go with 95s on this guy moving forward, because any thicker and I'm going to be in trouble. But it kind of has an interesting thing going for it, because it's so lightweight. It kind of feels and sounds like a hollow body a little bit when you're... I kind of get this feeling like it's a hollow body instrument. That's not necessarily a bad thing, you know. So we're gonna try it out. We're gonna test it out. Okay, so we talked about now what I've done, some more observations I've made on the instrument. So now let's start making plans, right? So what am I thinking for this thing? So first I was thinking about changing out this bridge. So I have another bass that was a project in the past and it didn't turn out very well. Basically I attempted to do a stainless steel refret, but didn't have all the proper tools for it. And there's just certain places where buzz cannot be eliminated. And so I just, that bass is basically just scrap parts. But it had a really nice brass bridge on it, which if you think about it, it'll add some weight here. The one thing I'm shying away about is that this bridge has 5 holes, and my one over there has 4 holes. The other thing is the height for a Thunderbird, because of this neck, you can see here it stands off the body more than, let's say, a jazz bass. So because of that, you need more height through your bridge. And for the brass one, it's much more of a jazz bass, so that you don't have like this crazy height that you can add to the strings. So I'm a little bit on the debate still about if I swap out the bridge to a brass one. Next up, we have the pickups. So for the neck, I'm definitely going to stick with the original that they send. I think I have it right here in the back. So I pried one of them open. Of course, everything's sticking to the magnet. At least you know the pickup has a magnet in it. But I'm going to guess it's ceramic. And so there'll be kind of that type of ceramic timbre on the pickup. So it's sealed, but I did break open the other one, and they did at least coat it, the inside, with wax. So that's nice. Normally with really, really cheap pickups, they won't take the time to dip it in the wax. But that's one of the features that helps out your humbuckers, and it helps them sound a little better. So I'm glad that they took the time to do that. So I'm thinking this guy for up here on the neck. We'll leave that guy with it. There is no delineation of a neck or bridge pickup location. Usually when you get a set, there's one that's designed specifically to be in the neck position and one that's specifically designed to be in the bridge position. And that's due to like differences in winding and resistances to usually how the manufacturer decides, like, we want this pickup to sound slightly different, you know, because the strings sound so much different if you're picking up the sound from here or here. And so they play in, you know, to those different factors and design their own idea. So these are not different from each other, I assume. There's no label, there's no anything, so I'm assuming these are identical. So down here I can either go with the other stock pickup, or once again from the scrap base I have a set of extremely nice Nordstrand 4-string single coils. And what I was thinking of doing was routing out extra room here and placing the single coils right next to each other. And I know that they're going to be wider than the original humbucker, but then that would just be, I'm assuming, like a nicer pickup to have there. The reason not to put something so nice in a bass like this, because literally those pickups are worth more than this bass. Literally, the pickup is worth more than the bass. So at that point, you know, why do something like that? And I kind of see that point, but then the other side of it is like, well, if I am going to give this thing a chance, I am going to give it a shot, I might as well put the best stuff I have in it to see what it does. So I'm still debating if we're going to route this out a little extra and put 2 single coil Nordstrand pickups in the bridge position. To be honest, the Nordstrands would be better in the neck position, but I know that's, number one, it's going to look weird. Number two, I don't know, I just keep thinking, you know, like for the playing position of my fingers, I'm going to want them over the Nordstrands back here. So, yeah, something else to think about. So then, next up, I definitely plan on trying to sand back this piece, because you can see the finish on this guy became much darker. So I'm going to try to sand this back and attempt to get it to be the same color as this. After that, I ordered basically how can I make the most dirt cheap finish on this bass but still going for my goal. And so what I'm going with is a water soluble dye, and let me pull that up real quick here. It is by the company RIT, and we're going to get a black, and I'm going to dilute it mostly with alcohol. Try to use the alcohol to help soak it deeper into the grains. Then sand it back and try to leave just the black on the grains, but get back to the wood for, you know, the actual surface. So you have just the black grains. Then a really light red coat. And what we're attempting to get is the translucent cherry red Gibson Thunderbird Studio that they were releasing back in the mid-2000s, like 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007. They were releasing these beautiful cherry red translucent finish, so you could see the grains, but it was a cherry red base Thunderbird. And that's kind of what I was originally wanting to get to. So that's our attempt. And then I have a handful of Varathane urethane finish sprays, and so I was thinking that'd be a nice, just kind of easy thing. Plus, I'm not spending extra money on it. I already have it. I don't intend on using it for any new project, so I might as well use it up. So, dirt cheap finish, $15 for the black dye and the red dye. And then let's see, we got American flag strap, so we're kind of going for this little American thing. I ordered a American Eagle sticker for right here, so instead of a Thunderbird emblem right here, it's going to be an American Eagle. And then after that, we're going to do some interesting experiments with the electronics. So I was looking up a couple different ideas for ways you can kind of alter your signal in here, but still keep the instrument passive, right? And the idea is to get a unique tone for recording, right? So I already have a number of excellent basses. I have a 5-string J bass. I have a 4-string J bass that's like a little distressed and kind of older looking. I have a Chris Lyons custom extended multi-scale, like beast of a bass. That's my main recording guy. Doesn't leave the house. Just here for amazing recordings. I have my old T-Bird. He's kind of retired. That's what I grew up playing, and is kind of a lot of the inspiration for like my desire to have a nicer T-Bird. And so typically the standard bass tones that you'd normally be recording for, I already have those, right? So what can this guy do that's different, you know? So what we're looking at for this guy is getting a nice fat kind of round sound out of it, and then a kind of like gritty sound as well. So for the fatness, I'm gonna have the usual setup, and what I'm debating is taking, instead of the 2 volume knobs, just having a blend knob, because I'm never gonna have the need for like an actual volume. It's always gonna be max volume, but blending between my pickup ideas, you know, and getting just the right blend of the sound that I want, I like that. I typically go for that when I can modify that. So I have that in some of my guitars, as well as in the Custom 5 from Chris Lyons, where you can just really dial in that tone you want by using the blend knob. So you're, instead of like having one pickup maximum volume and then you're trying to dial in that other volume, you have this continuous blend between the 2 pickup sets. After that, a regular tone. I have a couple different capacitors, so I'm going to test out and kind of see which one I like to achieve the sound that I want. What I will say is on the Epiphone Thunderbird, this guy back here, that capacitor is too much. It is way too much. So when you turn that tone control down, basically you're adding the capacitor to the circuit, it becomes only the deepest frequencies. There is no articulation left whatsoever. It's just all, you know. So I don't want it to go that far. So we'll test out the different capacitors for that. And then I was looking up, you can also get basically the way it was described is you're altering your resonant frequency of your pickups by doing, once again, using a potentiometer with a capacitor, but instead of the capacitor being blended in parallel like a normal tone, you're actually blending in series, and then your capacitor's functioning different at that point, right? And so that you're supposed to be able to kind of alter that resonant frequency of your pickups. So that could be a cool way to bring the resonant frequency down, I'm thinking, get a fatter sound out of the pickups without doing like physical change or changing the pickup itself. The next I want to try, but I'm not sure how well it's going to work. So this one's definitely experiment, but is diodes in opposing parallel. And so what that means is when the sound travels one direction, it can go through one diode, and then when it's traveling the other direction, it's going to go through the other diode. But those diodes have a threshold. So what you're doing then is you're creating basically like really low powered distortion. But I don't know how that's going to work on a bass, but I want to try it. So that's an idea. I'm going to test it. I'm not going to like hardwire it until I know I like it into the bass. And then the last one is like a split coil type of, just like a switch. So I can switch it, and instead of having a humbucker, now I'll have 2 single coils in parallel. So that's electrical ideas. We talked about the finish. We're still in the debate for some of the hardware. So the brass bridge, which pickups are going to go in here, things like that. But hopefully this information is helpful to other people who are considering doing some kind of DIY project with a guitar. You know now what was a guess for me. Right now, now we know it's not mahogany, but has an interesting sound. And then we're going to do some more experiments. So future videos could be very interesting as more of this occurs.